talk about impact on human jobs for a second. We'll go to humans later on. There was a time where technology could take blue-collar jobs. This is the first ever attack on white-collar jobs, and it seems like it's a fairly deadly one. Right now, people are like, okay, I'm just more productive. I'm doing more stuff. I'm editing some stuff here and there. Let's talk about GPT-4 plus, and that's not the only LLM that's going to be out there competing. Maybe there are some of them we don't know that it probably exists in some ways.
Yeah.
What happens? Like, just imagine a few scenarios. Let's talk about jobs at Zerodha and jobs at CRED.
So it's a very touchy topic. It's a very politically sensitive topic everywhere.
We'll put a disclaimer in the video and start.
It's okay to talk about it, but it's a very touchy topic. And if we say that, when you say this class of technology will cause widespread job losses, that's a blanket statement. And it may be true, it may not be true, but I think we have to, it's better to look at it step by step so that people who do not see the risk also see the risk. I think it should be a series of Sherlockian logical deductions. We can work with simple examples. So the entire point of the crux of the matter of an LLM is language, and it has already consumed large amounts of text and knowledge. You can feed it large amounts of text, and you can ask it pertinent questions in your language. Japanese, Hindi, English, doesn't matter. It's one technology. And then it can quickly sift through the semantics, the meaning of the, let's say, 50 pages worth of text that you put in, and give you pointed answers. Now that is a job typically a researcher would do. You would give someone a 50-page legal document and say, you know what, I want to know these. What are the pertinent points? They'll spend half a day, 1 day, 2 days, whatever. They'll do their research and come back with a summary. Now there's this thing where you can feed it huge amounts of text and suddenly get summaries. Can't guarantee that it's right. You also can't guarantee that humans are right. But that is just, that's one entire class of jobs. It cuts across industries. At CRED, there'll be people who consume information to produce intelligence. At Zerodha, there are people who consume information, textual information to produce intelligence. Every company, every industry has this role. And so logically, if there's a system that can do all of this within seconds, and it's, let's say, even 95% great, logically, how does that affect the human jobs that were doing this? And this class of jobs alone is probably millions of people across the world.
Yeah.
So simple logical deduction, and that's just one thing.
This is already possible.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what will be possible. We'll try to hint at AGI or the path to AGI. What starts happening?
So what is all? I think we have to really look at the entire idea of nth order effects. This is a simple first order effect. Text in, intelligence out, and so imagine. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen. It's just a thought experiment. Imagine 10 people, researchers who are doing this. Suddenly you have this one model, an AI model that now produces intelligence. Where does that intelligence typically go? In a, let's say, for-profit organization, that intelligence will be used to make certain decisions, conditions. And that decision, if you think of it from a first principles perspective, let's say you got 5 bullet point key points from a 50-page document. The next step would be to read those 5 bullet points and take an action, send an email or click a button on a CRM, whatever. So what would be the next logical step? Bring another system in that takes this intelligence and executes a small little action. In the beginning, it would be low risk actions, but if that starts working, what would be the next logical advancement? Slightly higher risk actions. So rather than trying to envision all kinds of things this can do, I think which is impossible to predict, nth order effects. It's easier to do first principles dissection. From just this one thing of text summarization, it has the potential to move on to decision making. And once you get to decision making, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
From low risk decisions in an organization to, if that starts working, the risk is slowly upped until systems, automated black boxes start making decisions. So if there are systems that can do decision making. Up to, there could always be a human that finally says yes or no. Then you can imagine the impact on every single human organization where, everybody runs on decision making.
It's interesting. So I'll talk about a story which is like a nice precursor to what can be the type of job. So one of the most highly paid job in the US is of a radiologist.
Yeah.
Which reads X-rays, MRIs, all of that. And once upon a time, when one of my earlier avatars, I tried to build a teleradiology startup, which was basically Indian radiologists who cost marginally, like 1/100th the potential cost of a US radiologist, could do an assistance program and give that for the US radiologist to kind of approve.
Yeah.
That, okay, this is a good enough detection. And obviously kept the rare cases for the main radiologist to see, because 90% of X-rays, MRIs turn out to have nothing in it. Now, what was interesting is that three things that was shocking. The US radiologists made comment that the Indian radiologists are actually quite good. Like, what is going on? And the simple thing that they came up with, that the Indian radiologists just saw so many MRIs and X-rays because our volume of country is huge and our doctors per capita is low. They are just like really good at their own AI. So they were actually quite good. Second is the cost was dramatically lower. The third thing that was interesting is that they were actually doing much better on the rarer cases and the misses. So some of the reverse thing happened. They said, why don't you audit my last 500 readings and see if I have missed anything? And the Indian radiologists actually did a better job of detecting the past thing. Now, obviously that startup did not go where there were regulatory challenges. I was not sure about the market size. All of that is a separate topic. But now, with AI, I don't know Indian or US radiologists will be able to stand a chance maybe in 5 years from now. By the way, we don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. We've spoken about it's impossible to predict what's going to happen in 5 years. But these are not even the category of jobs just stuck on text processing and all of that. This is years of compounding knowledge of becoming a radiologist and going through so many things and being able to diagnose well.
Yeah.
If diagnosis goes away, solutions can be playbooks, because basically that's what medical science is in some ways. Obviously the rarer cases will still go, but there is evidence now that rarer cases are being solved by AI at a much higher accuracy. So we are entering some scary times. Okay, on thought exercise. Let's do a thought exercise. A large chunk of our market cap is software services companies. We're not going to discuss what happened to the market cap. We're going to talk about they are currently providing some services. All of us have either relatives, family members, close siblings, all of them are connected to the industry, and we are somehow part of the industry even though we may not be working on these companies. How are they going to get affected in your view? And this is a thought experiment.
So I think we can have a nuanced take here. There are many different classes of programming or software development or tech jobs. Not all programming jobs are the same. It's a whole gradient. And IT services, the way we understand it, again in the Indian context, it's a certain class of jobs. Actually, before that, I ended up speaking to someone today who said that they spoke to someone else today, and this organization had an opening for 6 developers, and this is a product tech company, I think, and this GPT-4 stuff, whatever Copilot, whatever they're using, apparently turned out to be so good that they've decided to close those roles. They're no longer hiring for those 6, positions, and so this has started happening right around us, in small pockets. So sorry, coming back to IT services. Ironically, I think maybe IT services, the way we are looking at it, may be shielded from this for a little while, because again, first principles thinking. When you outsource large amounts of your technology, it's typically old, ancient, legacy technology, 40-year-old technology.
I've heard people are still doing Fox Pro and stuff.
So these are so complex, these systems are so complex, so old, so badly maintained over, let's say 20, 30, 40 years that people are afraid to touch it. Anything that you change might just, destroy 40 years worth of legacy. So These are not good code bases where you can just add developers to expand, extend. You're afraid to touch it, and it's business continuity. If you're a 40-year-old system, if you're a large bank, your 40-year-old system breaks, that's done, right? Done for. So maybe this is just because of this incidental reason that it's not easy to integrate new things into these old technologies that we service, the technology services industry services. It's not easy to change parts, it's not easy to plug in, plug out. Maybe for that reason, this may be shielded for a longer period.
I'll challenge you on this. The host companies that you're building this for, they may not be able to survive competition.
Yeah, nth order, yeah.
So this is the nth order thing. So let's say I am protected I'm protected because I'm in this some jungle which is not connected to a city, so I'm safe from COVID. It seems like that now.
Yeah.
Because I'm in this cool tribal place called as Foxborough, right? But the one I serve is not disconnected. They are not in some private island. They're competing in big markets. And unless they become more efficient, they're going to die, right? And therefore, my host companies will want to do something wartime to change things. So maybe that changes things.
It's true. I mean, there are so many variables, but there's this whole class of regulated organizations, let's say banks, etc.
Or oil companies who will just still remain relevant because they're going to fuel the AI.
There's that. But I think such disruption will probably not be allowed in heavily regulated industry. So when we speak of large-scale organizations outside India availing tech services from India, many of them are large banks, etc. So regulators will not suddenly allow sudden disruption. I mean, you can't just go disrupt a bank with AI or whatever. That's not how it works, right? So there are so many variables. But assuming that some of these large organizations are protected by regulations for a while,
there is some protection.
Yeah.
Either you are in an ancient technology, or you're protected by some regulator, or by a country. That seems to be like some safe spaces in some ways, right?
Yes, for short periods of time. Because when, on the one hand, you have this legacy system that you can't touch, so that code generation AI is not coming to replace and do whatever, replace people who've been servicing it. But on the other hand, there'll be new things that emerge that are far more cutting edge and sophisticated. So for how long can this entrenchment protect? It's just a matter of time. But I think it'll be protected for a little. It's just a guess.